I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about mindset, and especially if you're dealing with low AMH or high FSH. A lot of times those numbers can be very triggering and they can embed in your subconscious and you think that your fertility is falling off a cliff and there's nothing you can do. So I want you to be able to look at this completely differently, opening up the space now for your baby, making changes and really giving you an action plan and helping you enter 2025 with a sense of peace, with a sense of knowing, a sense of calm as you get ready to welcome your child. Excited for you to listen. Let's go. Okay, so today we're going to be talking all about mindset and really how to look at this journey completely differently as we enter into 2025. We're about to do that shortly. Recording this beforehand, but it'll be launching on December 30th. So, a lot of the time when we get that AMH level, it can be extremely triggering. Your REI may have told you, so your reproductive endocrinologists and infertility specialists may have told you you've got a low AMH, it's below 1, you're going to struggle. Either your options are going to be, IVF if they can do it. Sometimes they'll do an aggressive IVF or they do a gentle IVF, or maybe they tell you they can only do an IUI, or maybe they've told you you've got to go straight to donor eggs. And so those are methods that can be helpful, but then no one tells you the other options of looking beyond the AMH. And the problem is, the person in the white coat, we're taught to trust that person. And, they've had years of training. So nothing, we're not anti-IVF. But the problem is they only receive 1 week of nutrition training in medical school, and many medical schools are funded by big pharma. So they're incentivized to prescribe and to do surgeries. And so the diet and lifestyle piece is just not really on their radar. Like, how many people have you gone to a doctor? The doctor is like extremely unhealthy. You can see them, looking at them. They look exhausted, tired, overweight, stressed out. And they're saying, you need to work on your diet and lifestyle. So even if they say a couple little things, maybe you need to go walk, you need to reduce weight or maybe walk more or stop drinking. It's like taking advice from the wrong person. They've never been trained on it. So when you get that AMH piece, in the fertility space, that is like, it's like, sorry, your fertility is it's just fallen off a cliff, and there's nothing we can do. The problem is, and I've done many episodes on this, and I feel like I've talked about it for years and years, but is the AMH is the wrong biomarker. It does not predict your egg quality. It does not predict your ability to get pregnant naturally. It doesn't predict your uterine receptivity. It literally is used to then see how well you'll do with IVF. And so again, IVF can be part of your toolkit, but we see AMH numbers go up all the time. And we've helped people with an AMH of 0.02 at 44 get pregnant naturally. All sorts of people with very low AMH going on to get pregnant naturally, or if they do need to go to IVF, improve their chance of this working. So, but what happens from a mindset standpoint is that doctor that, he or she's got a lot of training. And an authority figure has told you you're going to struggle, and it kind of like weasels into your brain there. And you're like, and it feels like there's nothing you can do, that this is your destiny, that they have told you you're going to struggle. So we myopically will focus on that AMH and not look at all the other biomarkers that we're going to talk about a little bit here today. But a lot of this conversation is about knowing if the majority of us can get pregnant naturally, like you don't have a medication deficiency, something is going on in your body. And so the biggest piece here is from a mindset side of things, to be actually understand that and I'm afraid about understanding it, like understand it, yes, but actually believe it. Believe that, the AMH and the FSH numbers, although we need to know them, we don't want to be blind to those numbers. They are not predicting your ability to get pregnant. It's, talking about your ovarian reserve, and again, how well you'll do with IVF. And so it only takes one egg, right? So let's I guess recognize that might have got into your subconscious. And then how do you start? Are you self-sabotaging yourself? Are you like, well, I don't really know if this diet and lifestyle changes matter, so I'll just continue drinking. I'm going to eat ultra processed foods. I'm gonna hang out with toxic people, the people that, just don't fill you up. They make you feel like, not good. And then just sort of like spirals around. And then our relationship, I see a lot of couples that, this journey can be hard because there's a thing with with a woman where there's biology takes over and she will just keep going. And the guy is like, but you know, really all the guys we work with are open-minded. They're like, "Tell me what I gotta do." But a lot of times if you've been this for for many years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years trying to figure this all out on yourself and thinking that, that the fertility clinic is your answer and not like dialing back about why are things imbalanced to begin with, it can really have a huge divide with you as a relationship. So it impacts your intimacy and every aspect of your life. You may pull away from your place of worship, your friend group, your social circles, what you need right now, in time of struggle is connection. So the first piece of that diagnosis, most people know, like when I talk to them, hundreds of women all the time talking, everyone's got their AMH memorized. I'm like, what's your AMH? And they tell me right away. No one's like a few percent, maybe 5% of like, I got to go look at the paper. Like that number is ingrained in our subconscious, and we keep looking at it. We retest it. We find it triggering. We're like, we feel doomed. So the piece is to know it. And if it is triggering to you, stop testing it. Like give it a break for a little bit and then work, make some targeted changes. So that's the first piece of knowing that well-meaning person, your REI, has told you this AMH number, and it's just not true. There's like we said, those studies we've been talking about, like people can get pregnant naturally. It doesn't impact your egg quality. It's not a predictor of your egg quality because they can't measure for that. So they'll tell you that you've got poor egg quality, but and then there's really not giving you any specific strategies to actually improve it. But when you actually improve your health, that's what improves your egg quality. All the biomarkers, like I've done 7 years. It's been 7 years that I've been doing this podcast talking about all the things we can do, from a functional medicine, functional nutrition standpoint to really, make these changes. But if you don't believe it, you're not going to be able to follow it, and you're going to self-sabotage, and you'll go off down a seemingly easier path, which it's not easier to inject your body full of hormones and medication. That can have like really bad side effects on your hormones, which can impact your relationship. And so the whole point now is to recognize what you've been through, to give yourself some grace, like to give yourself some grace, and to be able to see a positive path forward. So in our Fab Fertile method with couples we work with, one of the first calls with the mindset coach is the hope call. Because we want we're going to be doing testing. And there's a lot of sort of things in the beginning where we want to make you have some dietary changes, but we want you to get a solid foundation of hope. And as part of our enrollment process here, when we get on a call together, I will ask you, how is your hope? Like, where do you feel? Some people are like, yeah, I just know. I know for sure this is a done deal. Like I've got strong faith. I've got with the universe, God, whatever it is for you, they just have this knowing. Others are like, well, I feel very guarded. I don't want to like go too deep into it. I feel broken. I don't really like there's a lack of trust if you've been through this for years, right? So wherever you are is completely normal. So we don't judge where we are. Is to be able to then, look at patterns, see what's going on in our life. And so with the hope call, what are some of the questions we ask? Like, what are your current thoughts about the fertility journey? You're like, this sucks. I'm exhausted. I don't trust anyone. I have already made diet and lifestyle changes. I have done all the IVFs. I've done everything. I don't think there's anything else I can even do. They told me I'm going to struggle and I'm struggling. Sometimes people say, I knew back in my 20s that I'd have a problem. So it's almost like some self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, but like your current thoughts about the fertility journey, just, think about that and what emotions are coming up for you. And also sometimes like, where do you feel that in your body? Sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, I just feel like so tense. My shoulders feel tense. I feel like a squeezing. I feel like, in your stomach, maybe like just like not good. Like, or maybe you feel kind of open. You feel ready to receive. You feel calm. You feel it's like you're just have a knowing and a solid peace about this. Um, and another question we can explore is what needs to change in your life to open up the space for the baby, for your baby. And many times we're like, you know what, when the baby comes, I'm gonna be doing all the stuff, then I can leave work early, then I can hang out with my girlfriends, because we'll all have babies together. Then I can see my mother-in-law without like getting freaked out if she's gonna be asking questions or talk more to my mom um, then I'll go to my place of worship because right now too many kids, all these things that we might have changed. Because sometimes our if we look at our wheel of our life and a wheel of life, like things could be lopsided, like your social life could be suck, your relationship, maybe you're having struggles, right? It's just like you're on a schedule. Let's baby make, and there's no love making. The intimacy is struggled because it's the thing that you do together to have enjoyment and connection is now feels pressure, and then your partner feels pressure, and it's not fun anymore. So what needs to change to open up the space for your baby? And yeah, and the emotions that kind of come up around that, right? And so we don't want like obviously you could feel guilt or shame. So any of those emotions are completely normal. So we don't want to we're here to validate those to make sure to know that how you're feeling is completely normal. And really being able to give voice to that because sometimes we haven't even shared some of these things with our partner. A lot of the times in a partnership that the male partner thinks he has to be strong with the female, can't really share how he's feeling. He's equally as impacted by you. He equally wants to have his child, and so sometimes just giving him voice to be able to share his emotions is really impactful. And a lot of sometimes I find with couples where like as the woman, we're like picking on him. Why doesn't he take his vitamins? Why doesn't he's just drinking beer. Oh no, he's trying to sabotage this whole thing by he's gone out again. Maybe he smoked some weed or whatever he's done. Most of the guys we're working with, like they're living healthy lifestyles. It's not about perfection, right? You can have a drink once in a while, but if you're having every like daily drinking, then that's not a good thing. But we need to be able to, you might want to be micromanaging and nagging our partner because that's just a recipe for disaster. Like, let's look at all the good things that he's doing, all the support he's providing, all the whatever he's doing that's great. Notice it, and you'll get more of that. Whereas we start picking out the things he's not doing. So, or maybe your relationship is really good. It's brought you closer together. You feel very connected, and then we just deepen that bond. And so, yeah, as part of our with this hope call, we do heart math, which has been used in schools, organizations, and in hospital settings for over 25 years, 400 peer-reviewed studies, and really breathing into the heart space. And this can be easier said than done. So your so the difference between your heart and your head. So your heart is your true self. The responses are balanced. It's genuine, caring, inclusive, whereas the head is sort of projections, inflexible attitudes, that all or nothing thinking. And so let's listen to the episode on heart math that we've done. We've done a number of these ones because maybe you're just like all in the cortisol side of things where you're just everything's kind of stressed and you're feeling agitated and angry and frustrated and impatient and worried and just catastrophizing. Whereas, on the renewal side of things where you're improving your DHEA is like the love, the caring, the patience, the surrender, the knowing, the trusting, all that side of things, and the scale might have, like, flipped a little bit the wrong side. Makes sense, right? You've been through a huge struggle here, so how do we then balance things out a bit? Um, and so that goal of our hope call is to really you have your big why, like, I don't need to tell you what your why is of why you're making these changes, you already know. And we set the stage for hope. We make little changes, along the way to then open up the space now for your baby, which is bringing in joy, things that make you happy, happy as a couple, happy as an individual, like things that really, light up your soul, hanging out with people that just bring you joy. Like maybe for you, talking to your mom every day is not good for you. Maybe you need to talk to her once a week. We don't need that daily phone call. Maybe hanging out with certain friends, you're like, "Yeah." They actually drain me, drain your energy. Like, the ones that you hang out with, you're like, you can't come out and you just feel great. So it's not about cutting all these toxic people out of our life. It's like, do we can minimize some people that we hang out with, and same with at work as well. It's like, do we need to, I'll get into that in a little bit, but do we need to be in every single meeting? Like, no, we don't. Do we need to work, till midnight? No, we don't. So, and you may be like, "Well, yes, I do." And then that's something that we're going to challenge you on, right? So, so the next one is going to be to educate those around you. And sometimes we're like, "Oh, people are just ignorant. They don't even know what I'm going through." And really, if someone hasn't been through the fertility journey, like if they have not been through this, they don't know what you're going through. They don't. They just do not get it. I know when I was diagnosed with POI, so premature ovarian insufficiency at 28, and was told donor eggs, people are like, "What's a donor egg?" Like, what? I'm asking a couple of my friends if they wanted to donate, and they thought about it, but they said no. And we ended up doing, anonymous donation. This is 25 years ago. 'Cause my daughter's 23 and my son's 20. So, people had no clue what I was going through. Um, and so, there's books on these things and blogs and all sorts of information now. So that can be maybe even more overwhelming. But the whole point of this is we need to educate people around us. And if people just don't really know what to do, they may, if it is also to think about how you want them to handle things. How do you want them to handle a baby announcement? Do you want them to maybe just send you a little text? Do you want them to call you before that they announce it? Like, how do you, if someone's trying, like, and then how do you want it to happen? Because sometimes people won't tell you because they don't want to offend you, and then that offends you more because you weren't included. Same with the gender reveal. Do you need to be at that event? Or like, do you need to be the one that organizes? Maybe you can, leave early. Yeah, leave early, come late. Same for baby showers. Do you need to be the one in charge of it? Maybe you don't need to go to all of them. Maybe you need to explain to the person sort of how you're feeling separately beforehand. If it's a really close person, then you can have those conversations. So it can be very difficult, right? And so to put ourselves in those situations. So it's not about closing away from all these things. These are happy events in people's lives. These are milestones, right? We celebrate all these things. We gather together. We go to our place of worship. We gather in our friend circles celebrating, weddings and births and all this peace. And so it can be feeling excluded. But is to see how like, think about how you really want this to be handled. I think a lot of us haven't thought about it, and we're like, well, that person was just so annoying. How could they even do that? And they disrespected me, blah blah blah. Well, they haven't been through this journey. They have no clue what it's like. They have no clue that even seeing a baby in a stroller is triggering, that maybe going to the Target and seeing baby clothes can be triggering, a baby bump, like a pregnancy bump. All these things can just bring up so much emotions. And so it's to, first of all, think about how we want it to be handled is the big one here. And then educate those around you. We don't need to educate everybody. We don't need to be educating the person at the grocery store and things like that. If they're like, "Oh, how's your, are you trying yet?" Or, you're at a Christmas party or an event and people are, "Oh, do you have kids?" And it's just like a conversation starter, right? So you can think about how you want to answer that. Either, "Oh, we're trying," kind of make a joke out of it, or you're like, "Oh, you know what? Actually, we are. We're struggling," or you can laugh it off. So, or just tell them straight, right? Depending on who it is. So it's to have something prepared, because sometimes it's like, "Oh," it like takes you off. You feel triggered. You have people like running out in the hallway, like crying, right? Because someone said something, and also if we're feeling more, with our hormones and things like that. So it is to give grace to yourself and to people around you, and educate the ones, your close circle. Start with a few people. You don't need to be starting in this massive thing of education and sending out memos and things like that. No, it's like just a few people around you of like how you'd like things handled, you and your partner. And then, so this is number 4. So the first one we had about the AMH, it gets stuck in your subconscious. We need to be able to recognize that's in there, like that AMH, and we feel impatient, we feel frustrated, we feel angry, we feel like all these emotions because we thinking that the AMH is predicting our future pregnancy success, and it seems very low and that we're going to struggle, and then it's like this the whole spiral, downward spiral. So being aware that the AMH is good to know, but it's not a predictor of your future ability to get pregnant. So there's other biomarkers that we need to look at. The next one is the hope piece. Like, how are you feeling on hope? Are you how like as far as bringing in joy now to your life instead of just like I'm going to have joy when the baby comes. No, how is your life can be different now? How do we set things up so the baby can fit in? Maybe there's no room. You're working till 11 o'clock at night. Where's the baby fitting? And that goes into the next one, and then educate those around you of how you want things handled, with regards to those life events. And the other piece here we see is a theme. People that have low AMH and high FSH is overworking. And so these are some patterns that we see with people that we're just gonna like bury ourselves in work. And everyone else can leave early to pick up their kid from daycare or pick up their kid from school. But you don't have kids, so you have to keep working and you're not allowed to leave early. And maybe you feel guilty, and so you're gonna be the one taking on more of the load. But right now, we need to prepare our body right now. And so you working till 10, 11 at night, you working past 5, really, how is that serving you? So to actually have it that if opening up the space now that you do have to pick up your child, that you do need to leave at 5 and say goodbye and close. I got people working till 10 or 11 at night, like closing down the laptop, being able to, answer the phone next day. And it is setting up some boundaries around that. So it's not about if you're currently working really late and answering every call, we don't just like shut it off, you know, like a clean. We can do it gradually and nudge things back and have some conversations, with your boss if you feel comfortable about that. A lot of the times we're like, oh my goodness, the only the way out here is, you've got to, maybe you have a toxic work environment, you have a demanding boss, you have an environment that you probably have overstayed your welcome because you were wanting to get pregnant so then you could leave, go on mat leave, and then never come back. I remember that was the case for me. I'm like, get me out of here. I'm just staying here so then I can be done. And it overstayed my welcome. Um, and sometimes switching jobs at this time is not the best move, but it could be for you depending on what it is, if it is extremely toxic, right? But many times we can go into our current workplace and see like, wait a minute, hey, I'm going through this journey right now, and I need to pull back a little bit. I need some support here. I need a little bit of help. Like most bosses are very like, oh, they're first of all, they might be shocked that you're going through this. Oh, I had no idea. And most of them are fairly compassionate, right? We don't need to go into the details with them, but being able to, ask for what you need at the current job, and then if that's not well received, then you can make your decisions after that. But a lot of it is, do we need to attend every last meeting? Probably not. Probably not. Can we delegate? Do we, depending on where you are and your job and things like that, can we delegate more? Um can we make changes at the current role, communicate with maybe a small few of people around us so we feel comfortable with that, right? So, but we find that most people, when they've done that, it does just takes this weight off of them. And then if you are spending really long hours, start to reduce that. Like anything over 50, like we're getting into that's too much. It's too many hours. And like our whole thesis on this is it actually early menopause because they tell you with a low AMH and a high FSH that you're heading into menopause and maybe you've got some menopausal symptoms, so insomnia or hot flashes or night sweats, mood swings, and or is it your adrenals? So the adrenals, all this stress, and we've buried ourselves in work, which impacts your thyroid. So maybe you've experienced pregnancy loss, which then impacts your AMH, your FSH, and your body's ability to implant. So let alone like I speak to couples all the time, and this is kind of a theme I see. The woman, I ask, how's your stress? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not stressed, 10 super stressed, where are you? Most people are telling me 7, 8, or 9. And the guy, typically the man is more, he's probably a 2 or 3, maybe a 4. I do sometimes see both couples are at a 9. They're like, I am just ready to, like, both exhausted. But more often than not, the woman is completely stressed. the guy's, feeling a little more chill. I know that's the case for my husband. He's very like chill, no, not a worry. Everything's kind of, he's very patient. Stuff like, luckily he moves quickly. Otherwise, I have to beat him. But because I've had like years of impatience. I used to be so frustrated. I literally would visualize myself banging my head against the wall, going, "Why is this not going so quickly?" Like everything. So it comes from my dad, where like he was extremely impatient. Remember, he'd park the car and be like, "Why are you in the car?" Now with my husband, I'm like, um, we park. I get out the car. I'm already like down here, and he's putting his glasses away. I'm like, "Where are you?" But and I'll be like racing down the road. So I have worked a lot on this. Like this is, I've worked a lot on this to be able to slow down, to try to. So I don't like the word try, but to go more with the flow. We need to like, my planning. If you're like a type A, like you want to control the shit out of this thing, like to control things, if that's you, then, that could be your superpower, but it can also be your arch enemy where you're trying to control things in the times of uncertainty and ambiguity. You're like, oh, I don't really know what to do. So then you might default into your, whatever your default is. Mine is like, I go into like super, especially on health things, I feel very triggered and I want to go into like the dark, like just 3 a.m. Googling, like, I got to figure this out, blah, 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 blah. That's not helpful. It's not helpful. And you might have found me through some some late nights scrolling and searching, right? And so maybe researching, love of learning can be your superpower as well. But if we're doing it at the impacting our sleep and then impacting our relationships, things like that, we need to be able to pull back. So if you're finding your that control and patience, worry, catastrophizing, like that side of things. All those are normal, right? We don't need to be like judgment and beat yourself up, but just that's why we see these patterns of people just you're doing too much just because you have a lot of energy and you can get a lot done does not mean that and maybe you feel fine. You're like, I'm coping good. I've got no issues here. That was me. I'm like, I don't feel stressed. So yeah, yeah, I was stressed. Like at one point I couldn't even open my jaw. I like TMJ. I was like, oh, I can open my jaw. I got my neck was like a ball of stress. But I'm like, "I'm fine, I keep going." I'm not like a crier, so I'm thinking, if someone's crying, maybe that's why they're stressed. No, like, if you're feeling all those other emotions and the body is just feeling like in the fight or flight, there you are. Fight or flight, we wanna get it into parasympathetic, so then the body knows it's safe to procreate. So setting boundaries at work, having those conversations, seeing where you could pull back a little bit, delegate, and first, like, starting with the conversations and then, being able to take a few things off your plate, taking at least one day to leave, not early, but leaving at 5, or maybe you do take a day where you're like, "See, I'm done at 4:30." And if you're working at home, same thing. It can be, you gotta set the boundaries, right, to be able to close the laptop and not answer the phone because maybe you're gonna do a Pilates workout, or maybe you're gonna go for a walk or read a book or have a bath or have a like meditation, things that make you um just have some peace. And so the body can know, oh, wait a minute. I'm not being chased by this saber-toothed tiger, right? So it's like years and years of being under stress, so chronic stress, we see people's adrenals just flatlined. And so some that these are the themes that we see to make these changes now. We don't need to wait until baby comes. Now, make the changes. 2025, as we're about to enter it, have those conversations. See, like, visualize what you want it to look like, what you want your life to look like, with the baby in it. What's the morning going to look like? What's your day going to look like with your child? And then what changes do you need to make right now? Maybe like it's, you know, you can have some super long commute. Maybe you can talk about having a couple more days at work, a couple more days at home. Many people are being asked, to go back in the office and just having some of those conversations is the best place to start. And then, like we said, so looking beyond the AMH, this whole podcast on functional nutrition and functional medicine is all about that. Like, don't want to be blind to the AMH and the FSH biomarkers, but what are the other biomarkers that we can look at? And when addressed, will shift everything and improve egg quality, improve the chances of pregnancy success, helping you get pregnant naturally, or if you do go to IVF, we got people doing 20 IVFs, all those hormones that have been pumped in their body. We don't know the long-term side effects. And then we're forcing the body, and then we see people that have pregnancy loss or they have preeclampsia or gestational diabetes, complications of pregnancy. Maybe they had a hard time breastfeeding because we haven't addressed the health in a targeted manner. And most people, like if you're here right now, I know you've already made some changes. But we've got to go deeper. It's not about going wider. It's not about reading more generalized blogs. We've got to look at the strategies that are right for your body, addressing the thyroid. Like if you're told your thyroid is normal, we need to make sure it's optimal. Looking beyond the TSH, looking at the full thyroid panel, looking at those adrenals. We need to nourish things. Your blood sugar, considering a continuous glucose monitor, that can impact your cycle. So is your blood sugar, are your triglycerides off, which then can be an indication of some insulin resistance 3 to 5 years beforehand. So are things trained the wrong way? And so we don't just say, oh, everything's normal. But if it was normal, you'd be pregnant. Those environmental toxins, we're exposed to like 85,000 chemicals in our foods, the heavy metals that we could be exposed to. And the big piece on this has chronic stress that you've been under, either from your work. People will tell me, I'll ask them when you got this diagnosis, either an autoimmune issue, something has happened probably a year beforehand that they got this autoimmune, either extreme work stress. I had one person tell me that they literally slept 1 hour a night for a whole year because they were on some big project. And now they had 4 autoimmune diseases. I'm like, "Yeah, our body needs to rest." And if we've pushed it the other way, you know, there's repercussions for that. So we don't blame ourselves, right? We need to bring things back, bring things back in the right direction. So it's tipped in the wrong direction. We need to bring it back to the right direction. So with being able to, like we said, so recognize those stressors, and being able to, give yourself grace around that piece of the stress. So when you've got diagnosed with a low AMH or high FSH, what was going on in your life? Maybe you had some a tough relationship breakup, or something going on in your own relationship. Maybe you had death in the family. Maybe you were overworking. Maybe look to see what was going on, and now we need to improve things. Maybe you had a couple of the jabs there, and that just set things off in the wrong direction. Maybe your cycle disappeared. I have people tell me they got the jab and they fell flat on their butt for weeks, didn't recover. Their cycle went away. So lots of studies talking about what people's studies were people's menstrual cycles were changed when they had COVID. So either the vaccine or the are actually getting COVID. So being able to boost up your immune system, and typically that's like a 6 month thing. Like if you've had COVID, 6 months, right? To be able to get things back in balance before you go and push your body with maybe you're doing an IVF or an IUI. You want to really be very careful to make sure your body is in the best shape. Um, and then really with this, looking beyond the AMH side of things, with the stress, with the all those things we've talked about, and food sensitivities and gut infections being the main one. If you've got an infection, a parasite, whatever it is, your body wants to survive, not procreate. Looking at the vaginal microbiome, you had UTIs or thrush or bacterial vaginosis. And if you had pregnancy loss, anyone on the fertility journey needs to look at a vaginal microbiome test. All these tests, doing it in a targeted manner, can really help you uncover what is going on with your body and get yourself back and, right the ship and get yourself back in order. And then you can decide. You're like, wait a minute, I want to do this for, 3 to 6 months. And then I can do an IVF, or then I can do a PRP. Because you do a PRP, you're putting inflamed cells back into your ovaries. People say that, they spend thousands of dollars on that. Well, it doesn't work because we haven't set up the strong foundation. So let's set the strong foundation up and then do those things. You got to do it in a targeted manner. And so that the majority of us can get pregnant naturally. And that's get some sort of affirmation. And if those affirmations don't work for you, then just remember the words. The majority of us can get pregnant naturally. IVF was started for people that didn't have tubes. Now it's for unexplained infertility. Everybody, like, how many people do you know in your small circle that are going through IVF? It has exploded. And you can say that, that fertility has improved, has fertility has decreased with sperm counts going down, and more people struggling with the toxic soup that we live in. But instead of thinking that the pharmaceutical side of things is our only answer, let's work on our health. And if we need to have that help, fine. But let's work on this in a targeted manner and reverse it. Reverse the infertility. Um, and the last one, like we talked a little bit about, is so as part of our program, we have either you can do an energy session. She's going to come in energetically. You won't see her. She'll pull cards and talk about spirit baby and really, really get you into that heart space, into that intuition. So that you know that your baby is waiting for you to do the work now. The baby's waiting. So we believe in miracles. You got to meet your miracle part way. We don't just sit back and like, I believe in miracles and not do anything. We need to, take those action steps and get your body and get your mind, body, spirit in the best shape possible to welcome your child. And so an energy session where you just have that sense of knowing that you feel peace, that you feel calm, that you feel surrendered, that you just feel you feel good in your body, and you can it's not this like frustrated beating, we're going to war kind of thing. It's we're receiving and we're feeling calm. And if that session doesn't work for you, there's a Christian couples session as well. So we take pieces from the scripture, from the Bible, and being able to have you really deepen your faith here. Many times we feel like it could be hard, on our faith as we go through our struggle, right? So to be able to reach out and to really deepen into your faith, and that's where you have the trust, the knowing, the really it's a sense of peace. Because right now we're just stuck in this uncertainty, the ambiguity. We don't know. And then what do we do in those times? Do we start, I start researching. Do you start catastrophizing? Like, do you start blaming? Like, what is it you start doing? Do you overwork? Do you ignore? Do you avoid? Do you fixate on things? Do you like what do you do in times of like, well, we don't really know what's going to happen, and those patterns be able to call you out on it, like, okay, here I go again, here I go again, until we be able to work on that. And so it is the mindset side of things, be able to reframe and to be able to look at these patterns, and also the intuitive energy, faith side of it that can give you, just a little glimpse of how things are gonna be, and being able to open that space up for yourself now. And so the Fab method, like we talked about a little bit, during this call, so it's got functional testing. So we do food sensitivity testing using blood, stool testing, looking at the DNA of the stool, and then we do genetic testing, different than the karyotyping that you're going to do at the fertility clinic, which only impacts about 10% of couples. This is looking at your gene variants and seeing maybe if you need a little more choline or more methylfolate. We look at vaginal microbiome testing, like we talked about there. We look at hair tissue mineral analysis testing for heavy metals and nutrient status. Maybe you're just low, like you got low vitamin D, you're just low on all all your nutrients. And we also look at blood chemistry review, develop a protocol and a plan based on that. And then we have the mindset coaches to actually help you implement the plan, because you can get a plan. Here's a plan, all this testing, and people doing all this testing. First of all, they're doing testing with people that don't specialize in fertility. Like, that is just a waste of your money. So you need to work with someone that actually specializes in your diagnosis. And if you're here right now and you've got low AMH and or high FSH, premature ovarian insufficiency, diminished ovarian reserve, we work with people with endometriosis and also recurrent miscarriage. You need someone that specializes in this. Otherwise, they'll just give you the testing, the protocol, and wondering why you didn't implement it and wondering why nothing's working. Well, we forgot the whole mindset piece of it. We forgot the fact that, this is impacting every aspect of your life, and your stress is through the roof. And we're trying to go gluten free. And we're like, well, why isn't this working? Well, because the elephant in the room side of things. So we need to put it all together. We've been doing this program, giving this for years and years. We've been around for 10 years. So it's being able to, we fine-tune this thing over years and years. And so being able to help people look at this completely differently. Like, people tell us this stuff is life changing. I know it's life changing. I've changed like most areas of my life as well, for the better. Is it some perfect thing? No, but it's being able to, call yourself out on your own crap, get out of your own way. And so at the end of the program, you'll be either happily pregnant, or if you do need to go to the fertility clinic, you're going to improve your chances of success because you have optimized your health. You've set a solid foundation. You understand your health. You got your biomarkers. You know your testing. You know your numbers. You know your body better than the doctor. Doctor's like, here you go. You only got to do IVF. Let's pump your body full of hormones. You're like, wait a minute. I'm gonna decide when or if I do IVF. Because you'll go to the REI right now. They're like, wow, it's got a low AMH. I think we can probably do an IVF. Let's get you in for next month. Okay. And I'll say to people, is that written in stone? And they'll be like, well, no, it's not written in stone. Of course, it's not written in stone. Like, this is your decision as to when or if you need to do this. And so, we think the fast track is that. The fast track is always your health, and to be your own advocate. Look at the numbers, look at all your data, and make an informed decision when you need to move to the next step, because people go prematurely before they've addressed everything. And I just see people that it hasn't worked. Poor responders, canceled cycles, pregnancy loss, like heartbreak, financial devastation, right? When we start working on your health, you can reverse this. I never want to sugarcoat anything. Like an AMH of you've got an AMH of 0.02, that is low. That is low. And so, we can't make guarantees here because I don't know if you're going to do the work. I don't know if you're going to actually, we're going to give you a protocol, give you a thing, and maybe you're not going to be able to implement it. Maybe you didn't actually, hang it. Maybe you're still in a job that no longer serves you. Maybe the relationship, you didn't really dig into it. Like all these things, right? And so we're not going to beat you up, but it's like, let's see why we're not able to implement this, why it's not working, where if you're not believing it, if you get really, some people get caught up with the REI telling you one thing. That's why we have an OBGYN with a functional medicine background. So we can have some medical advice. He's our medical case reviewer, but you can have someone to, like, let's bounce some ideas. They're telling me this. What do you guys think? And so we can give give some opinions here. Obviously, the doctor's not your personal doctor, but to get some impartial advice on this can be really helpful, because sometimes the doctor is going to give you HRT, but they give you synthetic HRT. You want to make sure it's bioidenticals, and maybe you've got some perimenopause symptoms, and you're wondering what's happening. And so a lot of that can be HRT, bioidenticals can be part of the solution, but we need to boost up your hormones and then eventually, reduce them would be the goal, so you get pregnant. And so we specialize in low AMH, high FSH, diminished ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency, like we said, and recurrent pregnancy loss. So if you would like to book a call, go ahead and do that. There's a link in the show notes there. You can do that. And so lots of success stories where people were told. Um, there's actually one I just had on that we just posted on YouTube about with Annie and Miles, their story of she was told donor eggs. He actually had very low sperm count as well, and they made the changes and they just welcomed their son. And so, like they said, it can be hard in the beginning. You're making these diet and lifestyle changes. I'm not going to tell you it's like a walk in the park, but if they can do it, if we can do it, like if I can do it, you can do it too. And so having someone to help you is key. So happy early new year, and wishing you all success in 2025. Take care.